Hey everyone, this is Stephen O'Hara here with the Better Support team. In this video, we will be reviewing the progression of a lead all the way through to order closure, and we'll even touch on the transfer of the invoice and payment information along to Quickbooks. So starting things off, we're here under our home menu on our leads list page. Now this page can be really handy, of course, to reference all of the leads that we have in the system, and leads can be manually created at any time. I think it's a great opportunity to build in, those light inquiries. It's also a great opportunity for manual prospecting, right? So if we ever wanted to proactively build something in that we could manually follow up with and try to progress to that point of interest, it's a great option. And third, really, this page can be further useful through our Gravity form integration with WordPress websites. And so how that works is when, let's say on any sub-site for a specific franchisee location, once we have the Gravity forms connected, when an end lead submits their information on that web page, we can have it so it automatically creates that individual right here as a lead in the system. So of course saves any kind of double entry. It's a very valuable and efficient part of the process, and allows me as a user to just jump on this page and reference and grab any of those fresh leads and run with them. Ideally, again, kind of reach out, get them to that point of interest where we have a shot at doing business. Okay, so I won't show creating a lead, of course, just basic data entry there, but I will show that next to any of the leads on this page, of course, it's a very functional page in its own right too. We can convert leads here. We could assign leads to pipelines so that we can maybe more easily manage them, let's say, on the pipeline board. We can edit any of the lead information here as well. We can also jump right in the profile. So that's what I'll do in this case. I'm going to open up Josh's profile. And here on his profile page, I could add in more information, of course. I could generate a new estimate on his behalf. Now let's say, of course, I go to this leads page. I see Josh's info. Maybe I give him a call, right? And we get talking, and he'd like to schedule an in-home estimate. Perfect, right? So I might first start by looking at my calendar and just seeing when I might have some availability to come out and pay him a visit. But I could also go straight to creating an estimate, and we could view the calendar from there as well. So in this case, he's definitely interested in getting some pricing. So we're going to go with creating an estimate here. And we might have taken a peek at our calendar along the way, right? But once we generate that new estimate, we've got a new estimate number here generated in the system. We could create multiple proposals off of this too. So that's an important thing for me to note, that really Josh might be interested in receiving a few different price options, right? Send me a quote that sort of includes this and that. Send me another quote that includes, a little bit more. So I think of it really like giving clients or leads in this case, like really a, good, better, and best option to choose from. And we can essentially win whichever version, so the proposal that we like, and there's no limit to, 3. You could create really as many proposals as you need within an estimate. We could also retire an estimate if we ever need to. Josh might say, well, this is all great, but, financially I'll have to put it off and get back to you. So, we could retire it. It's not, necessarily an active opportunity for us, but, he could easily call us back in a year and say, I'm ready, right? So I wanted to point out that, any proposals that are lost or aren't chosen to move forward with, or any, overall quotes or estimates in the system that we choose to retire, we always retain a reference to those. So we always have that historical information we could pull up from the quote list or from this lead's profile. And, if Josh does call back in a year, we could easily reopen that quote or even make a clone copy and literally have a reference to all the pricing we provided him originally. And so we're not guessing at it, right? And it keeps us very organized and makes the process very efficient as well. Okay, so further on, we could name our quote. Really, I might name it, full like duct replacement job, right? I could also plan interactions, and I want to touch on that quickly too, just in that, you know, you spend a lot of time and effort giving and providing these estimates, and I could totally sense in a lot of cases, right, especially for the bigger jobs, um, it might be a longer decision making process for, the prospective client, right? They might need to speak with their spouse, they might need to review their finances, they might need to, who knows, right? So, um, in some cases they might put the responsibility on us. Hey, could you call me back in 2 weeks? That's great, right? And we'll always be willing to do that, but it's very important to capture that and record it, and that helps us stay organized and make sure we don't miss that really important follow up. Right? It could be the difference in a lot of dollars if we don't follow up and we don't, let's say, win that business. Right? So it helps us maximize our potential on all of our efforts, and yeah, creating an interaction is really easy. We just create it, and they can show up in the calendar and really help us visually stay on track. And we can assign them to staff and keep track of all those important to-dos. And also wanted to touch on, of course, again, we could pop the estimate into a pipeline. And estimate tracking on our pipeline board is, visually just a really efficient way to ensure that no estimate slips through the cracks, and we can progress them too through the different stages of that buying process. Now, let's say again, hey, we want to look at availabilities. We're going to look at the calendar to set up Josh with an in-home estimate. So we're going to go in here. We're going to create an event for the quote. We only need about half an hour, let's say in this case. I can name it. We'll say in-home estimate. Okay, I could give it a stripe of color even if I like. Maybe I like my estimates on the calendar to have a little stripe of green, so visually they just stand out at me. Making further date and time adjustments if needed, but we can assign a truck, and we can also assign any of our staff. So we'll add Brad to this one and save away. Okay, now we can just hit this back button and flip right back to our order. And again, progressing a little further, let's imagine that we've set this estimate appointment up. I might even send that off to Josh by email, or we could have an automatic notification go out even to notify Josh that we've set that event in the calendar with all the details, so they can automatically email or SMS text to him. But beyond that, let's just fast forward to day of the in-home estimate. So we head out to Josh's place. We arrive. We could open this up on our phone or tablet, real easy. The system will display exactly how we'd see it, but just adapted to the screen size. But it'll have full functionality, of course. So when I'm there, I could easily, start adding in line items, assess Josh's needs, of course. So I'm going to go in and I'd like to add in a few line items here in this case. So let's add in an access diff. Oh, there we go. And I just need to really type in a few letters of the product. So, oh, what did I do there? Sorry. I'm gonna go air handler 2. We'll add that in. Okay. And oh, I see I didn't get my access diff in there. Sorry, I'll try again. We'll add that. And I want to add just a bit of additional labor too. Okay, so we're adding that in. Now, once I have the line items, I can click on them and I can really configure anything from their price to discounts. I could add in notes specific to that line item, and that might help us draw focus when we arrive, say, to do the work. In this case, I'll just go ahead and set some pricing. Okay, so which one do I have here? Air handler. Let's just set that up for some cleaning. Put a price on this install for the access diff. And additional labor, we'll just pop that in, $275. Or we could also adjust quantities or prices over here. We could just click on them, set them, and be done. We've got our event details all logged in at this point too. And again, if we're in home with the client, great opportunity, of course, to ask and answer any questions they might have, or we might even just email it to them right there on the fly. So we've got that option in play. Or if we put this together when we get back to the office, same idea. then that email option becomes even more relevant. Um, and again, if we have it open on a tablet, we could kind of just show them how it's all coming together. And you never know, like you might have an easy opportunity to review it with them and seal the deal right there on the spot. It's always ideal. But um, now in this case, again, let's oh yeah, just touching on the interactions again. Yeah, we could plan those, pop them in the calendar because we could be there at the estimate, and the client says, "Okay, I'll review with my spouse. Can you guys call me in 2 weeks?" Great. We'd plan that out. Um, Set it for a right date here. So maybe I'll go, let's say, to the 8th of October. Maybe like call back repricing or quote or whatever, and we can even assign it again to a specific user. So this is fantastic too. I just wanted to kind of add to what I was previously discussing on this. Fantastic if you employ any salespeople, and it really helps them focus on their specific to-dos, and you can report on them and really keep track of whether things are getting done, right? And so maximizing these opportunities. So we would, I canceled there, but we would just save that in. Um, and again, let's fast forward a little bit. We say email that estimate off to Josh. Maybe within a week or so, he decides to move forward. So a couple interesting things about the email option. When we email that proposal or multiple proposals to a potential client, they could actually choose whether or not to move forward right with their inbox. So they'd have their own little win option, right? So if they pick to win a specific pricing proposal, it'll update automatically in the system. So that's really nice too, and automatically, generate that next open order for us, so that we can, um, use that order to focus on the scheduling component, right? We might need multiple days to do the work on the official job, and we might have to order in some materials, but yeah, that's an important part to know. Just having that ability. Now we can manually win any of the proposals that we like as well. And let's see, we could yeah, then really go and work on putting in the details of when we're going to do the actual work itself. So maybe fast forward in the calendar a little bit here. Maybe we'll start work in let's say the next month here. So we'll create an event. And what I love about this is we can create as many events on an order as we need to. So we don't have to go generate a new order number in the system every single time. And I find that's really helpful, like the multiple events capability here. Also, our pipelines can be helpful in this scenario, but it helps us get a really specific sense of when we're going to be there, who's going to be there, what day, what time, because really you might issue or send different staff on different days and different trucks. So it's so important to have the ability to accommodate these types of variations, and you're going to find it really easy with adding in multiple events. So naming the events, I think, is really key to that too, right? So the first day, maybe I'm going in and I'm tearing down old ductwork, so I'm just going to put that in as demo. Um, don't need to use the color, but I kind of like using it. And I can set a certain truck and certain user. Again, Brad's going to get assigned to a lot of jobs here, but that's okay. And once that's in there, I can keep adding. So maybe we're going back even the following day. On Saturday, we're going to show up, maybe drop off some materials and some supplies for, where we're going to pick up the next week. So in that case, maybe I don't need this quite such a lengthy amount of time. So maybe I'll adjust my duration down. I'm just going to do a quick drop in, drop off materials. Perfect. And again, Brad. Okay, we'll pop that in there. Now I didn't assign it to a truck yet, so that's wanted to show, like, anything not assigned to a truck will show up gray in your calendar, and it helps drive your focus to, oh, you know what, we need to pick a resource to tie that to. And maybe keep going the following week, right? Maybe, into the next week, we're going to really get started with the full-on install and the cleaning and any other things that we need to do. Oops, I'll just add to that a little bit. And away we go, right? So I'll pick super admin this time. Give Brad a break. So wanted to show that. Really easy to create those events. very specifically to the needs of the client and to the needs of your business. And then we can always just go right back to the order. Now, again, we'll, of course, have these different visits along the way, and we might manage those off our calendar and our user dashboard. Um, Once we have the work done, we'll ideally want to collect payment. And of course, didn't mean to overlook that. Really, once we make it an open order, it's important for me to point out we can apply the payment right down here. And in a lot of cases, if you ever need to take a down payment, and always important, I know, when you're trying to sort of reserve your resources and your materials and your costs in general. Um, Sometimes it can be necessary, especially for the larger jobs, right? So if you ever need to take a down payment, we could pick like half payment. We have some just pre-select options, and really you could alter the price that you're entering for payment to be whatever you like. Um, and we also have our notes field. So it's always handy when you say take a check payment to record things like the check number so you can match it up with your bank account. And yeah, we just hit accept there. So that'll log that payment against this order. So like I said, whether we're taking maybe a partial payment in advance just to reserve the work, or whether we're taking that final payment at the end of the work. And in some cases, of course, if we're dealing with a commercial client, that client can be put on account, and we can set net terms and even give them a credit limit. We can capture things like PO numbers and billing numbers, but that too, of course, can be a very common scenario with commercial work. And any of those orders that aren't paid, let's say the same day that the work is completed or rendered, well, those orders will appear on the accounts receivable report so that we can, easily kind of track and manage who owes us money. So aside from that, again, fast forward to going to the home and completing the work, and we apply that payment. Actually, this is really the closure step I'd like to show you in my own demo system. Okay, because my demo system that I have is connected to a test QuickBooks account, so I'd like to show you a little bit of that process. So again, once we've rendered the work, we'd have our closing step where ultimately we tell the system that the work was rendered. When I think about it, there's no reasonable way for the system to assume that jobs or certain types of work were done, and assumptions can be dangerous sometimes too, right? So I kind of pose it like, well, if it assumed that because the date in the calendar passed that the work was done, that could be very problematic and over-report things like revenue. So the owner is always the best source of judgment on this. So they just got to mark the services as complete. Again, think of it as rendered. At that stage, we record the value of the job as revenue, of course, less tax, as official revenue. And in this case, let's say where there's still a balance owing on the checkout, full balance owing actually, really if there's even a penny owing, once that order is completed and acknowledged as revenue, if there's balance owing, it'll be on our accounts receivable report. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and check these off, and we're going to mark it as complete. So we're going to hit the close button. In this case, it won't close the order because I do have a balance owing, but the order will now be acknowledged as revenue here in the system. So it's an easy way that we can log that. And sorry, one last thing surrounding this is the order becomes so official at this point. And that's why we choose this stage also as the trigger for sending the invoice along to QuickBooks. Now that payment I just recorded and payments in themselves, they get sent to QuickBooks as independent records. Every payment is important in its own right. So if we take any form of deposit, well, we want that to be in QuickBooks even if the invoice isn't there yet, so that really the user can mark it as deposited to the bank account as necessary, right? And just manage and track that payment accordingly in QuickBooks. But again, upon completion, it doesn't get any more official. And our whole stand on it is we don't want users to have to second guess what's in their QuickBooks. It's meant to be very hands-off and very automatic. All they have to do is their typical day-to-day work in our software, entering customers, entering payments, and of course, closing off their orders. And naturally, all that information will automatically send along to QuickBooks along the way. So, yeah, we don't want them to have to scrutinize what's on QuickBooks and wonder, gee, did this job happen or not, right? So, now, quick opportunity, I'll hop into my QuickBooks here. Oh, apologies, I thought I was already signed in. Just refresh the page here, we'll get in there. And I'd like to just open it up and show you how that payment, well, in this case, I gotta run the payment on this same order. I ran it from a different location, so I'm just gonna log the payment here too. I think I did check 12, something like that. Okay, so once I hit accept, that payment's going over to my QuickBooks as well. And again, in this case, my demo site is connected to my QuickBooks account, so I really kind of had to show you this step in my own system. But really, now that we've done that, I can go over to my sales menu here in QuickBooks. Let's just load that up, and I'm going to see that on my all sales list. Okay, so I could sort and filter and everything else. Now, in this case, I'm just going to do a quick filter, and I'm going to look specifically for Josh. There he is. Perfect. And so there is the invoice, and there is the payment that we just pushed through. And I love, kind of touching on the point that's really nice, actually. All of the records that are associated to this just get automatically associated once they land in QuickBooks. So you can see the invoice is marked paid because the payment is automatically applying to it. And Josh, of course, is party to both of these records, so he's automatically looped in as well. Just to explain here quickly, and in some QuickBooks as well, like you might have this number column be kind of narrow. It's important to widen it out, at least from my standpoint, because I like to reference these BPro numbers. That's referencing the invoice number, and even on the payment, we get first BPro hyphen, we first have the invoice number that payment is related to, and then on the second hyphen and after it, we have a unique payment ID, and QuickBooks generates that payment ID. The idea is really, I could have a $1,000 order and I could log 4 equal payments of $250 on that order. Those payments would essentially look identical if QuickBooks wasn't adding this unique payment identifier onto each one. So, if I had to refund one of them, let's say, it'd be really important to know which one was which. But again, that reference back to the invoice number that payment is related to is perfect. And basically, every record that gets sent over, like whether it be payments or invoices, coming over from the Better software system will always have this BPRO tag, like just always associated to the order number. So it just is sort of an affirmation or confirmation that record was created via Better software specifically, because we might have instances where some users have historical data as well. So it allows us to tell it all apart. Now, clicking into the invoice, we can, reference all of the information that came along with it, the line items, the prices, any descriptions along with those line items too. And, we could further make any changes if needed. Tax can also come in, of course, and I didn't touch on that in my example, but really we can have the tax selection set, of course, on the invoice, and if tax is included, then it will definitely come in to the QuickBooks invoice as well. Okay, and yeah, it just makes it a really easy, like I said, relationship between the software, so that really the user can manage anything on like the banking and accounting side very easily here in their QuickBooks. And let's just open the payment up quickly as well, just to reference that. And so right away we'll see see reference to the invoice that it is attached to. And we could mark it as deposited and so on. So that's it. That is the journey from lead through to closure, and really that how it all transfers into QuickBooks along the way. So thank you all so much for joining me here today. Have a great one, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.